Hey guys, Nick here, and today we will be seeing if the situation with Father Gabriel will be dealt with much easier than its canon counterpart, or if Shane being there along with a few others will mean that Father Gabriel might end up dying much earlier on. This is part 7 to the awesome remake, which I'm still gonna address every episode, of What If Rick Spared Shane, which I hope you guys are really enjoying. Now, the opening to Father Gabriel and his church would play out as you would expect, with Father Gabriel leading the group to his church, and everything like that pretty much going as you would expect, until the thing with the food bank happens, because the group is somewhat different going there, yet not really. The first three are Rick, Shane, and Michonne, with the others staying behind. Now, as for the food bank itself and the entrance to that, I feel that that would pretty much go the same, except Shane and Michonne are actually together, and Rick and Michonne still conversate, but it's not as much as their original counterparts. They weren't together right now. I'm just saying that it's different character interactions. Now, I feel that Sasha and Bob would still go, just for story's sake, but with Shane being there and being a good shot with his weapons and just being a very perceptive person, I feel that Bob getting bit would not happen here. And it wouldn't truly matter in the end, even if he somehow, someway were to. Bob, even though maybe to Sasha, was a small character. He doesn't get bit in the story. I'm saying if he did, it wouldn't be the hugest deal. Because remember, cannibals died back at Terminus, all of them. So it's not that big a deal here. Now, the Grady Memorial Hospital sequence doesn't happen, if you guys couldn't already tell. I never really focused on this arc in any of my stories, really, because there's never been a need. And with Beth dying much earlier on than her canon counterpart, there was no one to get kidnapped, there was no one to anything. It doesn't matter. So, moving on to the whole Washington sequence, which does still happen, we get Eugene, Maggie, Abraham, Glenn, and Rosita, but no Tara. So the whole group, outside of Tara not being there, is the same. Eugene lies about the cure, and it goes as you would expect. After that, besides Noah and his home not being relevant, the story goes the same. And the group walking out near the end of Season 5, or near the middle of Season 5, whatever you want to call it, would be Father Gabriel, Daryl, Carol, Eugene, Michonne, Rick, Glenn, Maggie, Sasha, Rosita, Abraham, and Carl. So, pretty much all the same, except no Noah and no Tara. As for the rest of the group, it would be Shane, Lori, Merle, Herschel, Andrea, T-Dog, Tyrese, Bob, Mika, Big Tiny, Oscar, and Axel. So the 3 prisoners are still alive here. If you guys haven't already watched my previous parts, don't know, yeah, I'm actually giving the prisoners outside of Tomas and Andrew, because there was really no hope for them, a chance to shine. Speaking of Mika and other characters, over this time, I'm actually giving Carol a chance to sort of adopt Mika as her daughter, if you will. Get some kind of relationship, because I never really got into that in the last story. What if Lori survived? Because the center focus was Lori, I didn't think about it. And since Carol and Axel are officially a thing in this story, Axel becomes sort of like an adoptive dad of sorts. So, it's really nice. Now, we get to the whole sequence with the barn, but this time with a much bigger group, even though they're all pretty much starving. They are able to actually fend off the zombies that attack at the barn much more easily, giving them much more good sleep, more attitudes, but they're still hungry, so can't really do anything about that. It's just having a bigger group has its pros and its cons. So, yeah. Anyways, after that, Aaron makes his entrance and talks to the group, but it's going to be a lot more friendly here because the group's more friendly, because a lot of people haven't died, and just Shane being alive and other people being alive means a better impact for the group and their attitudes. But that's also a major sin factor if you haven't watched The Walking Dead. Anyways, the entrance to Alexandria plays out as you would expect, but it's much more calm, to say the least. It's much more nice of interactions with Alexandria and its people. Then we get to Deanna, and she interviews everybody, but the interviews are a lot different. There's more people, there's extras, and the people that she already interviewed in the original story have much more better stories than their originals. Like Rick. He hasn't killed Shane, he hasn't lost Lori, Carl and Judith are around, and he's honestly a much better person. Sure, they've all still been through a lot. I'm not going to deny that the group has been through some dramatic experiences, because Beth still died, and Daryl's going to care about that. But they haven't gone through... The group hasn't gone through as much as they did in the original story. Now, for the events for Alexandria, they play out as you would expect, but well, going into the entrance of it, at least. Like Glenn and his whole thing with Aiden, except there's no Tara and Noah, so it's mainly just him, maybe a few others with them. It's a few changes here and there. But then we get to a big thing, which I discussed in my first ever rehash of this story. Well, not rehash, but version of this story. Who would get the police uniforms? And that, of course, Rick and Shane. Because you can't break tradition. Because they were the original cops, it just makes sense. I feel that it's a better thing for them to be the cops in this scenario. But, in this story, since Shane is a cop and he's with Michonne, he feels that with Michonne's prowess and strength and everything, and just the way she presents herself, he feels like she should be involved in the constable role too, because that's what Deanna called it. Constable, cop, whatever you want to call it. But anyways, we now have 3 constables in Alexandria. Rick, Shane, and Michonne. Now, since Rick and Lori are still together, even though I don't like Lori's character, as I've discussed before, I have ways of making her better to the point where you can find her likable. What if Lori survived as proof of that? And she would get sort of a counselor sort of role, like Deanna's counsel, sort of like Maggie. So I'm not going to deprive her of any glory. Now, Deanna is kind of untrusting of some of the group and their backgrounds, but from what she's seen and the way they present themselves now, they don't seem like a threat. So she doesn't have too much to worry about. It's just a small thing whenever she begins to interview them, is when she mainly worries. And speaking of others, Carol is a prime thing right now, especially with Mika and Axel, because since she is the way she is now, whenever she has interactions with Sam, she doesn't threaten him or anything like that, because Carol is a much better person in this story. So Sam's not going to get all whiny and feel unsure about himself, because we all hated that, I'm sure. Now, here's another important thing. Merle. During his peacetime and everything at Alexandria, finally feeling some comfort and knowing that they're safe, at least for now, sort of like they were at Woodbury, he finally tries to reconcile with Daryl after feeling fully guilty about the death of Beth, because he kind of was, if you haven't seen that part yet. But Daryl at this point has gotten over. He's told Merle it's not his fault, and he needs to stop feeling sorry for it. He's made his point. He knows that Merle wasn't responsible, so the brothers are good. And this is Daryl being the nicest he's being to Merle. This is true character development. Now, as for the group of who goes with Glenn, Nicholas, and Aiden, it is much different here, because Eugene still does go, but who are the other two people that replace Tara and Noah? Well, I've discussed this in previous stories, but T-Dog is the one to get injured this time. Usually I've had it T-Dog and Tyrese, or Bob and Tyrese, or T-Dog and Bob, but this time I'm having T-Dog be the one that gets injured, and Bob is the one to take Noah's death in the elevator shaft, or the door shaft, whatever you want to call it. Not elevator shaft. That's my bad. Never really know what to call those. The sliding doors, whatever. Anyways, Bob is the one to take Noah's death there, while T-Dog is the one to get injured. Back at Alexandria, after all's said and done, Glenn, I think in this story, is going to hate Nicholas about the same that he did with Noah, because they weren't really too big on friendships, whereas Glenn and T-Dog in one story where T-Dog took the death, that's big because T-Dog was a major player at the beginning, but with like people like Bob and Noah, I don't think it's that big a deal. Meanwhile, Gabriel talks to Deanna about his thoughts of the group, but they're dimmed down at least a little, because the group hadn't killed the cannibals or anything, but he still has concerns and knows they can't be trusted, just not as big as before. And then we get to a big thing, Pete, and how the group is going to deal with him in the story, especially considering the fact that Shane is around. Now, in my original story, I had Shane be the one to encounter Pete and then kill him. But, spoiler alert, that's not going to happen this time. But what will happen, and will it mean drastic measures taken into the group? And that's where we leave things for the moment. Hope you guys enjoyed that little cliffhanger and are enjoying What If Rick Spared Shane, the remake in general. Hope you guys are ready and waiting for the next episode, which will be soon, and I will see you guys next time.